And the newspapers suddenly get really full about a hot well in Southtown where you could go and bathe in these warm waters pumped out of a well, and it basically would heal anything that ailed you. So this went on for several years. And of course, there always were people that doubted the source of the hot spring or the hot well. And they finally pumped, the guy was going to prove that it was real. And they had all the water pumped out, and they found a exhaust pipe coming from the nearby sawmill boiler that was heating the well water.
The voice you just heard is Mr. Derric Scott, the president of the Chilton County Historical Society located in Clanton, Alabama. Stay tuned for much more interesting conversation about the society and Chilton County coming up on this episode of Preservation Oaks. This is Sean Thomas Radcliff. Welcome to another episode of Preservation Oaks. In this series, we introduce you to professionals from museums, cultural, genealogical, and historical societies across the United States. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the program. Hey, good day, everyone. This is Sean Radcliff, coming to you from Salt Lake City with another episode of Preservation Oaks, the internationally syndicated original talk program on Microstream Radio, where we feature interviews with professionals from museums, cultural and heritage institutions, historical and genealogical societies across the United States. Thanks for listening. By the way, our main platform is preservationoaks.podbean.com. But we're also on almost every podcast platform, as well as TikTok, Odyssey, and YouTube. So wherever you listen to the program, I appreciate it very much when you like, comment, follow, and subscribe. We trust that people want to have a better understanding of these precious organizations. We make listeners aware of how the organization is supported, how each is unique to the communities they serve, what programs and events they currently have underway, and what services they offer to the public and their members. We think this information is vital for people to know how to work with these organizations and how important it is to join, support, volunteer with, and donate to one or more of these societies. Remember that your donations are tax deductible, and many larger companies even match your donation, which is a great thing. Each guest organization on Preservation Oaks brings with them a truly unique perspective around how they tell the story of their communities, how they continue to be relevant for the times in which we live, and what kinds of exhibits and volunteer opportunities they've created. This makes listening to each episode of the program interesting, fun, and diverse. If you're listening and you'd like to be a guest on the program, or if you have questions or comments about the program, spin off an email to preservationoaks@gmail.com. All right, that being said, let's get this show snapping. Our historical January events for this episode. On January 1st, 1908, the ball was first dropped at Times Square in New York City. On January 6, 1838, Samuel Morse demonstrated the telegraph, and on January 11, 1838, he and Alfred Vail demonstrated the magnetic electric telegraph using Morse code. On January 14, 1784, the United States of America ratified a treaty with England, ending the Revolutionary War. On January 15, 1943, the Pentagon opened. It's the world's largest office building at 6.5 million square feet. Be prepared, listeners. They're probably going to need to build a new Pentagon sometime soon. On January 24th, 1935, beer was first sold in cans. Thanks to holidayinsights.com for the January events. Drink a little tea, Twining's tea. That's good tea. Now you can email us anytime at preservationoaks@gmail.com. Preservation Oaks is available for listeners on nearly all podcast platforms, as well as TikTok, Facebook, Odyssey, and YouTube. For this episode, we greet Derric Scott, the president of the Chilton County Historical Society located in Clanton, Alabama. This great society has a lot of records online and accessible via their website. They have several historical books about the county and its people for sale. They have a great project underway that will help the community, their members, and anyone researching their family roots in Chilton County, Alabama. We'll hear about these topics and more on this episode. If you're a resident in the local area, this episode will help you understand what the society has to offer, how you can participate and take advantage of the worthwhile events the society sponsors, and how to best support them by volunteering and donating. Here's a brief biography of our guest, Mr. Derric Scott. Derric is an electrical engineer with a BS/MSEE from the University of Alabama. He worked for the U.S. government and then, along with his wife, started one of the first internet service providers in central Alabama in 1994, and that was called Scott.net. After that business was sold, Derric began working for a Fortune 500 banking company providing information technology systems administration, support, and systems programming. His interest in genealogy began some 30-plus years back, and he used the Root L intranet mailing list. His interest in genealogy peaked with an interest in gathering all the family photos he could from his relatives. His collection evolved into gathering photos about the local area of Chilton County, Alabama. He joined the local Genealogical Society and the Historical Society and has now been president of the Chilton County Historical Society since 2016. The two largest projects he's managed thus far were the 2018 County Sesquicentennial and the current project where they're trying to digitize all of the newspapers from Chilton County. Welcome to the program, Derric.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Hey, you have a beautiful area of the country with a lot of history. I really love Clanton. I haven't been through the whole county, but Clanton is a nice town, very well kept, great parks, recreation. It's really cool.
Yes, it is.
Do you guys get winter with snow?
Practically never. We'll get snow, good snow once every 10 years. Flurries and a little dusting maybe every year.
Oh, that's nice. That's very nice. Do you have a tourist season?
Not particularly. This is a peach county, so peach season, summertime, a lot of people stop.
Oh, right, because you have a peach festival.
That's right. That's our big event of the year, Chilton County Peach Festival and Peach Queens and all that.
Now, is there a canning facility for peaches in the county?
No, it's basically all fresh. It's, of course, consumed locally and shipped around the country and basically a fresh product.
Oh, okay. Wow. You must grow a lot of peaches.
We do. The county does. It's the number one county in the state for peach growing.
Wow. Okay.
By far.
What about pecans? I know that pecans always kind of go with peaches. Do you grow those?
They grow well here. There are a few orchards around. A lot of people have trees in their yards, but there are a couple of commercial orchards.
Yeah, that'd be great. Wow, fresh peaches all summer long. That's great.
So starting in early June through literally September, there's usually peaches.
That must be so nice.
Those late ones, the August ones, are usually the best ones in my opinion. They're the sweetest and just a better peach variety in my opinion.
Now, did you go to school and grow up in Chilton County?
Yes, I did. In Clanton, the Chilton County High School was in Clanton. That's where I went to my high school.
And Clanton is the county seat.
That's right. Okay. Where the courthouse is and has always been, except for a few early years.
Okay, fantastic. So what is the history of Chilton County?
Chilton County was what's been called a Reconstruction County. It was formed during the Reconstruction years after the Civil War, and there were quite a few formed then for various reasons. December of 1868 is when the legislature passed the law that formed Baker County at the time. Mr. Alfred Baker was a local landowner, state representative, and he pushed through the formation of this county out of parts of mainly three other counties. And the courthouse was built at a place called Grantville, which today and even back then really didn't exist. It was created solely for the purpose of a courthouse for the new county. And pretty soon, less than a year, that log courthouse was burned. Some say suspiciously, but it was burned. And by 1871, they were voting on the location of a new courthouse, which turns out to be Clanton and has been ever since. One last bit, in 1874, Baker had fallen out of favor locally, and the county name was changed in the legislature from Baker to Chilton. Mr. Chilton was a justice of the Alabama State Supreme Court and other notable accomplishments.
What a time that must have been, huh?
I'm sure it was tumultuous, yeah.
No kidding. Why would the legislature choose to form counties as part of Reconstruction?
Well, the history back of that, and I'm not an expert in that particular section of time, but, it was all literally the southern states were under military rule. The ruling governor was military, although they elected a civilian governor too. The simple reason, I guess, is the distance to the courthouse. And if you have very large counties and you're traveling by foot or on horseback, going to register your deed or get a marriage license was a 1 or 2 day affair.
All right.
To go to the courthouse that was 70 miles away.
That would have been a big deal back then because it would have been horses, right?
Right. Or worse, on foot or mules. Yeah, it was slow travel and poor roads.
Was Clanton always Clanton, and was it formed specifically as you said there was another town that was originally the county seat. When did what's the history of Clanton?
The little spot in the road of Grantville is where they built the log courthouse. And best as I can tell, that was just a crossroads. The main north and south road and a main road going east to west was at that spot. That's where they built the log courthouse. Very shortly, literally within 2 years, they finished the main north and south railroad. That was to the west about 5 miles. Well, the railroads, of course, are major community builders. So the community that sprung up around that had been called Goose Pond for a long time, and it really was a very tiny spot as well. Well, they changed the name from Goose Pond to Clanton, named after the train station, which was named by the L&N Railroad, or the South and North Alabama Railroad at the time. And it was named after another lawyer in Montgomery named Clanton. It was named that right before he was actually murdered in Nashville. So it wasn't posthumously, but it was happened to be that way actually anyway. Wow. And Clanton, the whole property area, when Mr. Baker had the county formed in Montgomery by the legislature, Mr. Baker owned vast amounts of property in the area that is now Clanton, practically the whole city or town area. And he, soon after the county was formed, he had a architect or a surveyor, and they laid out the streets and such. And he began to give away church spots, public building spots, and sell lots for other people. And so as soon as they moved the county seat there, and it was on the railroad, and the train started running, Clanton really took off as the central spot in the county and the biggest town.
Nice. Very nice. I know it's a great looking town. I encourage everybody, all the listeners, to go and look at Clanton on your favorite maps website. It's just a real nice town.
The buildings in the center of town are brick, and those were built in, most of them around 1901, when there were two major fires in the town that burned most of the wooden stores. And everything was built back in brick around 1901, 02.
Fantastic. What's the history of your historical society, the Chilton County Historical Society?
I don't, there are not really any records of any real early things, but it was incorporated and formed officially in 1981, which I guess is a fairly long time ago now. It was formed by a bunch of very active, historically minded people, a lot of genealogy people. A second cousin of mine was very active in it. And they had several major projects at the time when they got started, including the saving of the old newspapers. They had been, for some reason, a lot of them had been removed from the courthouse to be stored in the National Guard Armory. And apparently conditions were pretty bad. Some of them were wet. They had to throw away a few of them, but they teamed up with the local county library and stored them there and formed a genealogical or historical reading room in the local library.
Okay. So is that still in place today, that reading room?
It is. Basically, most all of the books that pertain specifically to Chilton County, they have copies of there in the research area. And they have microfilm of some of the old newspapers and other older documents, censuses and things, which today a lot of that is done online, but there's a computer there can be used to do some research as well.
Oh, very cool. So you were formed in 1981 and people started donating artifacts, or how did it form? It was just formed because to save the newspapers, right?
Well, that and the major, and like I say, I was not involved. I wasn't even living in the town at that time. I had moved away, but actually to college at that point. But around 1980, late 70s through the first few years of the 80s, they conducted a major project of writing a Chilton County cemetery census that listed all the graves by name in the whole county. And it's a major book, and it was a huge work. And that was another one of their early projects. I don't know which came first or which was most important at the time, but those are the two big deals that came out of the first few years of their existence.
That's very cool. Well, thank you, Derric, for that. I'd like to provide listeners with the contact information for the Society. Listeners, you can contact the Society on the web at chiltoncountyhistoricalsociety.org. They're on Facebook, of course, as Chilton County Historical Society. You can mail them at P.O. Box 644, Clanton, Clanton, Alabama, 35046-0644. You can email them at president@chiltoncountyhistoricalsociety.org. Great society. Hey, Derric, can you provide the audience with an overview of the communities you serve there in the county, the variety of your membership, and the mission and objectives of your society?
Certainly. As it's named, the Chilton County Historical Society, we serve basically the whole county. The county has two large towns, Clanton and Jemison, which has grown a lot lately. And then there's probably four smaller towns, Thorsby, Maplesville, Isabel, and Verbena. And there are many, many other communities which maybe have a crossroads, a gas station maybe, or a small store, but historically have had a name and a community consciousness. Our membership is small, but it is nationwide, and it mostly consists of county residents or former county residents who've maybe moved off to other states. The mission is basically simply stated as we're dedicated to preserving the history of Chilton County.
Okay, thank you for that.
But I would imagine about a third of our membership is probably out of state. The rest, another third, maybe not in Chilton County, and probably a third in Chilton County. And those are just guesses, but I think that's a rough makeup. There may be more in Chilton County than that, but that's close.
That's a pretty good mix.
Right. I think a lot of those people that are out of state, I believe, are from the county or have family that was from the county.
Yeah, it's an amazing place because you don't think about, or at least I haven't, maybe it's just me, but I never think about the fact that Alabama, Chilton County, Alabama has a pretty good climate, is a beautiful town. It's a nice place to be.
Yes, it is. And for those that travel the interstates, you might recognize us by the big Peach Tower. We're right in the center of the state. And a few years ago, they built that Peach Tower to serve Clanton's water supply. And a lot of people know us as the place where the big peach is.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure they look forward to coming to Chilton County and Clanton every year for the Peach Festival.
Yes, and on the interstate, a lot of people just to and from the beach, they'll stop to get their peaches on the way home.
What do you mean by the beach?
Well, Alabama does have some nice beaches down on the Gulf,
Yeah.
but also the Panhandle of Florida is directly below it. So it's
Oh,
65 is a pipeline to the beach.
okay. How long does it take to get to the beach?
From here, maybe 3 to 4 hours, depending which area you're going to.
Well, that's not bad at all. Not bad at
It's
all.
close from Chilton County.
I lived in Arizona in Phoenix previously, and it was 6 hours to get to the Pacific Ocean.
Hmm.
And we didn't think that was too bad. So three
Right,
to four,
right.
not bad at all. How did you become the president of the society? How did that all happen?
Well, very, very quickly on that, I went to college in the early '80s and went off out of town. Worked for 10 years out of state. When I got interested in genealogy before my daughter was born, probably 30 something years ago now. And when I came back to town to form an internet service provider, at the time, I got interested in the genealogy. And I started collecting old photos and continued doing that until my interest expanded to photos of the town and the area and the county and got more and more broad of an interest in history. And by about, I think it was 2016 or 2015, the president resigned and they elected a new one and I was elected. I already had a few, actually, an unfortunate year, I think a couple years before that, when a lot of the officers, the active officers from the first generation, a lot of them passed away.
Oh,
Then it was another president and then me in about 2016.
so you have a lot of old photographs that you picked up?
Right. I've been collecting them from the family members, or a lot of them are scanned. I have a lot of computer scans of many, many things. And then I started collecting photos from the local area. Clanton, Thorsby has a lot of photos. Thorsby was formed by a bunch of Scandinavians in the 1890s, and they were very sophisticated, and they took a lot of photos and things. Most of the other towns have very few pictures around. So Clanton and Thorsby have lots. So, yes, I do have lots, tens of thousands of scans at least.
Wow. And you said Thorsby was formed by Scandinavians. I noticed that on the events calendar for the county, there's a Swedish festival, I think, in Thorsby.
That's right.
Okay.
Some years ago, they formed they joined with a sister town in Sweden, I believe, and they formed the festival, and they've had it every year since for maybe 10 to 20 years now. I don't know the date it started. But the town itself, the name Thorsby comes from, it either comes from the man who led it was Mr. Thorson, or from, maybe it's named after Thor, but either way, it's the Scandinavian.
Very cool. So what's coming up on the horizon for your society? Where are you headed next?
That's a good question. We're in the middle of a couple of big projects, or one major project. And after that, we really would like to gain some new blood into the society and get some new ideas, some fresh ideas. Look at some more online options, maybe, and things like that. I think that's where we're going to have to go if it's going to survive, given the changing demographics. The society members are older, and we're going to need to work on some new blood in the society.
Okay. And maybe some of the leadership.
Right. We do need leadership. We need some new officers. I think we have a couple of vacancies right now that we need to fill in the officers. And
what's the major project you mentioned?
We currently are working to have all of our old historical newspapers digitized and put online free of charge for research purposes or whatever purposes you might want to look through them. We have to date digitized up through about 1937, and that includes 10 different newspapers and includes about 70 years of those different newspapers publication years. So it's quite a lot already online, and we want to bring it on up into more in the modern age, at least into the 60s, and further if we can get permission from the newspapers on up as soon as we can, or to as recent as we can, assuming copyright permission and funding.
Right. Are you working with newspaper.com or or the other one, newspaper
No, we're working
archive?
with archive.org.
Oh, okay.
Newspapers.com does have a lot of the Union Banner papers online, but they're, like I said, they're up to 10 papers historically, and they don't have any of the others.
Wow, that is a big effort.
Right, and it's a physical effort. Those books are big and heavy.
Yeah. Holy cow. And that's like everyday newspaper for, what'd you say, 50 years?
Yeah, we've gone up through 1937, and the earliest one is 1877 that we have a copy of.
Oh my gosh.
So, and then of course we want to bring them on up into at least into the 1960s. I think there's no copyright issues through 1963. Then after that, we will need to work with the newspapers for permission.
Wow. That is quite, have you got a lot of volunteers working on that?
Just a couple. It's mostly me, and we're having the archive.org people do the actual digitization. So we're not physically doing the digitization. Our part basically consists of sorting through them, organizing, doing some repair maybe, and shipping them.
Wow. Repair as in with tape or something?
Yes, there were a few single copies of certain years and issues that were, badly damaged, torn, and I put a lot of those together with tape.
Wow.
So
What a big job. Holy cow. Now, what do you do?
Most of them
Put them
are
in a
in
box?
surprisingly good condition, but some of them are not.
What do you do then? Put them in a box and ship them to archive?
Yes, ship them to
Okay.
archive.org, and they have the big cameras and all the equipment to actually go through them and digitize.
Right, right.
In the process, besides digitizing, they turn them into, PDFs and everything else, and they become searchable based on, the OCR, optical character recognition kind
Right.
of software they use, which
Wow.
is, and then it looks like any other archive.org document. And you can find them. Our website has a link to them all, but if you go to archive.org, you can find them basically by searching for the Chilton County Historical Society, and it'll pull up, the list of things we've published there.
Wow, you'll be able to find your own ancestors in those newspapers.
Oh, definitely. There's lots of them.
That's got to be cool. Wow.
It is. And before with a search, computer search, it's nice and quick and easy. Before it'd be turning through reading every page, because if you got just a big old paper book.
Right, right.
You got to go page by page. You might have a date you're looking for, but otherwise you're at the mercy of turning pages.
Well, that's fantastic, Derric. Can you tell us a couple of funny or interesting stories from your society's history?
Well, I could tell you one of the county's history that's fairly amusing. It happened in Clanton late in the 1800s. I think in those days there was a lot of flim-flam artists, snake oil salesmen, those sorts of things. And the newspapers suddenly get really full about a hot well in Southtown where you could go and bathe in these warm waters pumped out of a well, and it basically would heal anything that ailed you. So this went on for several years. And of course, there always were people that doubted the source of the hot spring or the hot well. And they finally pumped, the guy was going to prove that it was real, and they had all the water pumped out, and they found a exhaust pipe coming from the nearby sawmill boiler that was heating the well water. So I believe the water was pulled from the well, run through the steam engine, and then pumped back to the well.
Yeah.
To complete the cycle. But it was pretty amusing. The man had sold property around there. He built buildings. He was selling the water. It was quite the undertaking for about 2 or 3 years.
How embarrassing.
Right.
Oh my gosh. And to build your business on it and then have it just collapse. Oh my gosh.
When he had sold several lots to Montgomery developers who were building hotels there, and it was
Do you have other hot springs in the area?
no,
Oh, okay.
there are not. Which is that's what makes it kind of funny is there's really not anything like that here. There are mineral springs,
Okay.
mineral water, that kind of thing, but nothing heated.
Right. And mineral water just means there's like sulfur in the water or something?
Yeah, different minerals. There actually was another location from as early as the late 1800s through that was called Mineral Springs. It's actually the location area. Over the years, going back to the early 1900s, there have been resorts or sanatoriums or whatever you would call it, hotel or whatever, there so you could bathe in those mineral waters. I mean, and that it was real. It really was mineral infused water. How much good it did you, I don't know, but the water was really. And my understanding is, any time now, there's a company going to start bottling that water. You can buy water in the store now, and you can buy spring water, mineral water, distilled water. Most of the water you get is just tap water that they've run through filters. But those other types of waters are available, and I do understand they have an agreement with some large distributors to sell the water. I don't know any of the details since they started working on it about a year ago.
Oh my. Wow, that's going to be pretty cool.
I think it will.
I hope to get some of that water in the future.
Right, and I apologize, I don't have the name of the company in front of me.
Well, it'd probably change anyway by the time they go public.
Right, but it's going to be something like Mineral Springs because that's the name of the community.
Nice. So what kind of funding model supports your society, and what are your funding goals?
Society generally runs basically off the membership fees. And on a normal cycle, that would just basically pay for the newsletter and things like that. So you don't have a lot of expenses normally. So the membership fee model is sufficient. When we do run a project like this newspaper project that has actual significant costs, then we have to do a donation campaign and raise money that way. So basically, we do memberships routinely and then donations for projects.
Okay. And are you bringing people together in like community dinners, pancake breakfasts, or something like that for that purpose?
The main thing that we've done is to speak at the local organizations, the local civic groups, churches, church groups, and other groups that meet regularly and do community service. And that's been pretty beneficial. Also, we got some significant funding from the local. We still have 2 local newspapers, and both of them have contributed significantly.
Nice.
The Chilton County News is a locally owned paper, and the Central Alabama Advertiser has been here a very, very long time, but it's owned by a regional, larger company, Boone Newspapers, and Mr. Boone contributed significantly to the project.
Fantastic. Are you getting donations from the public?
Yes, many donations from the public. So we're very thankful for that, and we continue to get them regularly. So that's the main ongoing source is from the public.
Okay. You getting any county, city, or government funding at all?
I've not gotten that yet. We've had sufficient going forward with our current efforts, and I probably pursue that as we come around to the next group of papers that we have to prepare.
Okay. Derric, I hate to interrupt, but it's time for our first break for a few minutes.
Okay.
All right, listeners, we'll be right back after these important words.
We'll be right back to Preservation Oaks with Sean Thomas Radcliff after these important messages.
Where can you experience hundreds of years of history in a single day? At the Chilton County Historical Society. You'll find something for everyone at the Chilton County Historical Society. For hours, admissions, membership, and volunteer opportunities, visit their website at chiltoncountyhistoricalsociety.org. The Society is currently seeking donations to digitize over 100 years of the county's newspapers, and they're also really in need of a building to call their home. They are seeking someone to donate a building for them to use. If you can help, please email president@chiltoncountyhistoricalsociety.org. Thank you.
It's time for Preservation Oaks Book Shorts. Book Shorts is a segment of the program where we quickly introduce listeners to authors and books which satisfy your love of history and genealogy, help you with your own research, and finally help you improve the depth and wisdom of your unique family story.
On this installment of Book Shorts, we're very pleased to be joined by author Joy Neal Kidney to provide listeners with an overview of her books. Joy's books fall into the category of nonfiction books that provide insights into ancestors' lives and the places they lived. I especially like history books that allow the reader to step back in time, which these books clearly do. These books can add depth to understanding and telling your own family history. Joy Neal Kidney is an Iowa author who grew up on an Iowa farm. With God's help, Joy is aging gratefully. Living with fibromyalgia for 24 years has given her plenty of homebound days to write blog posts and books. Listeners, I want you to know that this isn't just any nonfiction teller of stories. Joy was recognized and presented with the 2021 Great American Storyteller Award. Quote, honoring the woman who most beautifully tells the story of America to Americans, unquote. This award was given by our American Stories organization and WHO News Radio 1040. You can visit Joy's website at joynealkidney.com. Joy has 3 books, the first being Leora's Letters, the story of love and loss for an Iowa family during World War II. There were 5 brothers that went to World War II, only 2 came home. Leora's Letters, the story of love and loss for an Iowa family during World War II, tells the story of the 5 Wilson brothers who are featured on the Dallas County Freedom Rock at Minburn, Iowa. Leora was their mother, and it was Joy's grandmother. The second book is Leora's Dexter Stories, the Scarcity Years of the Great Depression. The undertow of the Great Depression becomes poignantly personal as we experience the travails of Leora and Clabe Wilson, a displaced Iowa farm family. Gritty determination fuels this family's journey of loss and hope, a reflection of what many American families endured during those challenging times. In this true story, the Wilsons slowly slide into unemployment and poverty. Leora must find ways to keep her dreams alive while making a haven for her flock of 7 children in one rundown house after another. The third book is called Leora's Early Years, Guthrie County Roots. It's the third book in the Leora Stories series. Okay, Joy, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'd like to say how awesome your books are. The cool thing about these books is they tell a story about the past that anybody researching family history can immediately benefit from. These books can enhance their understanding of the times and the lives of their ancestors, and that information can really assist them in telling their own family stories and might actually lead them to explore new threads of research. Can you give listeners an overview of your books?
Well, that World War II book, it had to be told because of the losses of the 3 brothers. But what it has done when people read it is they start telling me stories of their World War II relatives. You know, I just wanted to write a book. I didn't realize the connections they were going to make. The second one is called Leora's Dexter Stories, the Scarcity Years of the Great Depression. I'm just amazed at how many. I gave a talk last week and people told their Great Depression stories. I was amazed. I do research in what's out there. So many of the Depression stories have to do with the Okies and the going to California or They are farm families. My dad was a farm family during that time. I never heard him talk about being worried about what to eat. And my Depression era story even talks about when they had possum for supper. And at first my mother said, "Oh, don't tell them that." And I said, "Mom, your family did what they had to do to survive." They had the 7 children. The new book, the early years, actually goes into when Leora was born, 1890. I discovered that her grandparents were some of the very first settlers in Guthrie County, Iowa at the time.
Oh, no.
Iowa was not an old state. I think we became a state in 1846. And these ancestors came into that section of Iowa as early as 1854. So the beginning of it sketches early Iowa, early Guthrie County, and just what it was like to grow up during those years. Eventually, I'll probably do the rest of them. The next one is actually going to be the research I did to find out what happened to those 3 brothers during World War II.
Where can people get a copy of your book? What's the best
Well,
place?
they are self-published through Amazon on KDP. But if you would like an autographed copy, we have an indie bookstore here in Des Moines called Beaverdale Books. The phone number is 515-279-5400, and they will ship them. So that's a nice connection to be able to also benefit an indie bookstore.
Joy, I'd like to thank you for your time today and for your great books, for your great stories. Listeners, pick up a copy of these excellent books. They have real-life, true information that can help you shape your family history. So thank you, Joy, for being a guest on Book Shorts.
And thank you, Sean, for inviting me.
Good luck with your new book entitled Leora's Early Years, Guthrie County Roots. You come back anytime, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
And now, back to Preservation Oak.
Welcome back to Preservation Oaks. I'm your host, Sean Thomas Radcliff, and we're here today with Derric Scott from the Chilton County Historical Society, located in the great state of Alabama, in Clanton, Alabama. Welcome back, Derric.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
We were talking about fundraising and funding model. What kinds of fundraising activities or opportunities does the society offer?
Well, we mainly do the 2 things, the membership fees and then donations. The memberships, we do have several levels, but mainly the individual membership's $10 a year. And then if you want to do a family membership with several people, it's $15, and students are $5. So there's several levels. We also offer a lifetime for a significant donation or payment. But individuals, $10 a year is the main membership.
That is very reasonable. What kind of outreach and education does the society undertake within the community?
We have 4 meetings a year. They're usually educational with a speaker on some historical subject. That's at once a quarter, January, April, July, and October. And we meet at the local Senior Connection. It's an organization for the older adults, and we use their building. We participate in a couple of the local festivals, usually with a booth, informational booth. The Peach Festival is the big one. It's usually toward the end of June. And the Swedish Fest is the other one, which is in Thorsby. I think it's the 2nd Saturday in October, I think is their normal date.
Fantastic. Now, you guys don't have currently a society building, a physical location for the society.
Right. We do not have a facility. We have the library space, which has some research, books and things, and the newspapers. And we have our meetings at the Senior Connection, but we do not have our own office or building or museum or anything like that.
Is that something you're looking to do?
Well, I think a lot of us would like to have that, but with funding and the size of our society and everything, we'd be looking for something to be donated.
Right.
Over the years, there have been a couple of effort, there was a work with the Chamber of Commerce. There was a museum set up for a while. It eventually was disassembled and things. And we get donations occasionally, usually documents or photos. Occasionally it's something of a more physical item type nature. There are very few of those, and we just basically hold on to those for some future date when we can have a place to display them.
Yeah. Boy, that'd be so nice for you. Oh, man.
It would.
That'd be great to have. Now, you mentioned publishing a newsletter. How often is that published?
It comes out right before our meeting every quarter, and it basically has one or two articles of a historical nature of the county and other information of what we're doing, what's going on.
Okay. What's that newsletter called?
The Chiltonian.
Chilconian. Wow, what a name.
Chiltonian. The older issues are available on the website, but the more current ones are not.
Okay. Very, very cool. So you get the newsletter as part of your membership, right?
That's right. That's one of, if not the major benefit of membership.
Okay. And do you print that or do you send it digitally?
It's a print. It's print.
Okay. So in the newsletter, that's how you keep the community informed about the progress of the society in achieving its annual goals?
That's right. That's the main thing. But that's mainly for the membership. When we have things to report to the community at large, we go through our two local papers, and that's the Clanton Advertiser and the Chilton County News. They're both local papers and printed here.
Okay, very cool. You mentioned you have a research center and maybe an archive in the local library. Do your volunteers man that?
It is not manned. Of course, there are people at the library, but it's not Historical Society members or volunteers. It's just openly available to anyone who goes in there. I believe you have to sign in, but that's all.
Okay, very cool.
It's open to anyone.
But people that contact you that want genealogical family history type of help, you would refer them to the library?
No, the library does not do any of the research. If you need research done, you can contact the society, me, or something with your questions. And if we're able to, we will look it up for you. Nothing major, not major. We don't have a group that does major research for people.
Okay.
But if you need to see an entry out of a book that's only available perhaps in the library here, we can do that.
Okay. Now, does your society capture oral interviews from county residents that are elder?
We have done a few, or especially I've done a few personally, and I would be glad to do them for anybody that would volunteer to do those, but we do not have a program to actively pursue that.
Got it. Okay. Now, what kinds of volunteer opportunities besides the newspapers do you have other opportunities if someone wants to volunteer?
We don't really have a list of opportunities like that. We have a few projects that, if we had some volunteers we could do, but mainly it's related to the big projects we're doing.
Okay.
Is the newspaper at present.
Do your volunteers or does your society do like tours of the downtown area or old building tours or any of those kind of things?
We have done a few cemetery tours at Halloween, usually pairing with the Chamber of Commerce and things like that in the schools. There have been occasional tours of homes or of things like that, but it's not a routine.
So you mentioned books earlier, that you have books for sale. What kinds of books does your society have for sale?
Well, the list is on the website, and it basically is, for the most part, books that our society members have written or compiled. The older one that is still particularly variable is the cemetery census. It's out of print, but we can provide the PDF on DVD or something, CD. So it's still available. There's several county histories that have been written over the years that we have for sale, and then there's the other major work done by the society several years ago is a compilation of Civil War soldiers in the county and a short bio and little genealogical paragraph of each one.
Nice.
And Then we have other books that are more recent that have been done by local authors on other subjects. One's mostly a picture, a compilation, things like that. One's a northern information. I'm sorry. And the other one is information on some northern families of the county.
Okay. And I know that's all available on your website. I have to mention that on your website, you have a huge amount of articles, historical articles that you have written. I think you could pull those together and make a book yourself.
Yes, I do have a lot there. As I go through some of these subject matters and accumulate information, I tend to put it together in a document and produce a PDF of it so that it's largely for my benefit so I can find the information again later. But I did start publishing those on the website. They're freely available. They're just 2, 3, 4, 5-page documents on a particular subject. And there's quite a lot of them now. I haven't counted, but
Yeah, I think there was probably 30 to 50 somewhere in there.
there may be. And now that you mention it, I probably need to go update them and put some more out there. So,
Oh, great. That's got to be great reading for everybody in the county. I hope that the newspaper knows about it and can let people know.
I think they do, and I do get comments from all around people on the internet who've been looking at the website. There's also some older material on there that was done previously that's still available concerning churches and cemeteries and things on there.
Hey, you have some nice churches in Clanton, big churches, and then one small white one. I can't remember what that one is, but big
In
churches.
town, you're probably talking about the Episcopal Church.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then the large Methodist and large Baptist Church, and then many others. But
Yeah, nice place. So what is available besides the books that you can see, the historical articles? What else is available on your society's website?
well, we have a lot of links to some research areas, including the newspaper archives and the other online references that aren't physically on our website, but they're reachable through our website. And then there's areas to see the status of our current projects and the ability to donate to those projects if you want to.
Right.
And they can donate, and that page works through a button that goes through PayPal. And then the other donation areas would be the Facebook page, which goes through the Facebook process. And then, of course, you can always send a check to the address given at the website.
Yep, and you're on Facebook, so you're posting on there and people can see and be a part of your organization, and follow your organization just on Facebook.
Yes, there's a Facebook page. It's the Chilton County Historical Society. There are several local Facebook groups pertaining to Clanton. There's one for Thorsby, Jemison. Those are the main ones. There's a couple others, I believe, around. And those, with Facebook's latest changes, those are private groups. So you have to request to be a member, and then you can, see what's in there. That the changes in Facebook policies used to, you could see the pages, but you didn't have to be a member.
Right.
But now, unless you want to make it completely public, you have to be a member. Which, being a member is just a matter of you applying and us approving.
Okay, fantastic. Listeners, I want to give the contact information of the Chilton County Historical Society once again. Their website is chiltoncountyhistoricalsociety.org. You can find them on Facebook as Chilton County Historical Society. You can mail them at P.O. Box 644, Clanton, Alabama, 35046 0644. And you can email them at president@chiltoncountyhistoricalsociety.org. That all sound good?
That sounds good. That's right.
You've got Facebook and you can donate. I've not seen that before, where you can donate straight from the Facebook page. That's a nice thing.
For nonprofits, Facebook has actually a good deal. They don't take any percentage out of your donations, whereas most places take a 1, 2, 3% out for the credit card fees.
Right.
Facebook is absorbing those.
That's very cool. Now, I know we've got new strains coming out of COVID, in China, it appears that there's new strains coming out. In the United States, we seem to have things pretty much under control. At least I think we do. How did COVID impact your society and the county?
Well, as far as the society goes, it had a pretty significant impact because our society is largely older members, which was the most vulnerable population for COVID. So we erred on the side of the extra conservative, and we didn't have meetings. I don't believe we had any meetings in 2020. I'd have to go look, but I may have had one. So we didn't have any meetings. And with our membership, the online options were limited because a lot of them don't have modern computers or ways to do Zoom calls or whatever you might use.
Right.
So it did have an impact in 2020. In 2021, it started opening back up, and we did have some meetings in 21. And the Senior Connection Center we use is very large and very open, and they had their rules that they used for COVID, and we abided by those. And so 2021 and now 2022 were pretty normal as far as our meetings and things go.
Thank goodness.
Across the county, there were probably the most notable thing across the county was the Clanton mayor, who was in his 80s, contracted COVID and died from it that year. I think 2020, I believe. So that it did have an impact on the political structure of the county, the city of Clanton.
That's terrible news that you lost the mayor of Clanton, right?
Right.
So, Derric, what's your thoughts about how best to keep history and community support flourishing for the current generation, the K through 12 kids?
Well, that's always a problem, I believe, for history. Younger people just don't generally seem to have an interest in history. It seems to come as you get older. So keeping the young folks engaged is difficult. And technology has, I believe, made that more difficult because they're very much more technical than the older groups who form, for example, our society. There's a very large generational difference
right
between those. So I think we'll have to go more with more technology, be more online, be more virtual, do things online, much more online meetings and events, and putting more information for online research and references. So I think that's it. I think we'll have to do more outreach into at least the high schools, if not earlier, to try to find those history teachers, historical societies, and keep those people interested after they graduate.
Yeah. Do you do any work with like 4-H groups or Boy or Girl Scouts?
We have not done any of that lately.
Okay. So, Derric, why is the society important to the community, and what makes your society different or unique from others?
Well, I think we're important because we form a repository of historical knowledge, especially the older adult individual memory knowledge. We have a good group of people who basically remember many things going back for 70 years or more. And there also have been or are still active researchers, and they know lots and lots of details of what happened. So we have a repository of local historical knowledge. A lot of the local stuff is not covered by your school history classes, your history books, those things. That's a larger scale history. You know, people have specific questions about this building or that building or this bridge or the name of the street. Those things are not going to be covered in any history book
right
you might have in school. So I think that's where we have importance and some relevance there.
Derric, is there any other information or message you'd like the community or members to know about?
Just know we have our meetings. They're quarterly. They're open and free to anyone to attend. Everybody's welcome. And we're always accepting volunteers or people that want to participate in any of our current projects or propose new projects. This year is the 150th anniversary of our First Methodist Church in Clanton. So I prepared a talk for that.
That's very cool.
Subject for both our meeting and for some church groups.
Yeah, you seem to be a great historian for the area. Are there any other historians that you work with?
yes, there's a good many people that are very, very knowledgeable, more knowledgeable than me in most areas. So yes, there are quite a few, and most of them come to our meetings.
Okay, fantastic. Now it's just a matter of rounding all those people up, corralling them, and saying, let's get a physical location.
Right. And you'll know, if you look at the website, there's several books that are by local people, and those people, they're new books within the last 4 or 5 years. Those people are some of the experts in their areas in Chilton County. Some of them have specific interests, and others are more general, but they're great sources of information.
Oh, fantastic. Now, Derric, reflecting just a bit, how do you think your members, the people of the community, your volunteers, think about the society in terms of benefit and value?
I think generally the community views our society in a positive light. They see us as a source to go get answers to specific questions, maybe to have a speaker for a certain subject matter, preserving the history and the knowledge of the history of the area. And I believe the members see us as a valuable organization where they can come and talk about history and subjects that interest them. And very often they'll find other members are just as interested in that particular subject and maybe know more than they do about it. So it's very useful to come together and discuss common interests.
Thank you very much for that. Derric, I just want to thank you for being a guest on the program, for spending time with us. I've learned a lot about Chilton County, Alabama. I've learned a lot about your society, and hopefully we have let listeners know and the community know what they can do to help. And I'm really glad to meet you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Sean. I've enjoyed it.
And with that, we'll end our time with our guest, Derric Scott, the president of the Chilton County Historical Society in the great state of Alabama and located in Clanton, Alabama. Listeners, please stay tuned for my comments and wrap-up, which is coming up next.
Remember that feeling of wonder when you learned something fascinating about the past for the very first time? The Chilton County Historical Society is bringing the past back to life. Their goal is to celebrate the rich history and culture of Chilton County. Be a part of the action by volunteering and supporting the Chilton County Historical Society. It's well worth your time and attention. Visit chiltoncountyhistoricalsociety.org and learn more about this valuable local nonprofit organization. Donate, join, volunteer, and become a member today.
Hello, this is Sean Thomas. If you have a society in your area, then please support them with your volunteer time and funding. The more support they have, the more they can benefit the community in terms of providing records for family research and education for the public and students in grades K through 12. With adequate funding, the society can stand up a museum or sponsor historical and fun events in order to tell the historical story of the area and its inhabitants. Maintaining a society makes a huge difference in a community. Please don't wait. Show your support for your local historical or genealogical society today. They preserve our heritage and culture for existing and future children of all ages. Thank you.
The best thing about Preservation Oaks is that you get history instantly, right when you want it. Listeners of Preservation Oaks learn how they can experience unlimited fun and knowledge at their local museums, cultural and heritage institutions, historical and genealogical societies across the United States. All that for a single low-cost annual membership. Now that's high value. If you're not already a member or a volunteer, then be sure to get it done today.
They'll know you've arrived when you drive up in the 1958 Edsel, the car that's truly new from nameplate to taillights. New from the front. New from the side. New from the rear. Only Edsel has the sleek, clean line design that sets it apart from the look-alike cars. And it combines new looks with the newest V8 engines in the world, the big new Edsel 400 and the power-packed Edsel 475. It is unlikely you have ever driven a car with so much real, usable power as the Edsel. And with Edsel's exclusive Teletouch drive, you drive more safely, more easily than you ever have before, because both hands can stay at the wheel while the Edsel shifts electrically. There's even the added luxury of new Edsel air suspension that's just like riding on air, because you are. And remember, of all the medium-priced cars, car for car, across the board, the 1958 Edsel is the one that's new and the lowest price, too. So see your Edsel dealer.
9 out of 10 curators agree. Preservation Oaks is the best podcast on the internet.
And now, back to Preservation Oaks.
And we're back. What an excellent historical society you all have in Chilton County, Alabama. Emerging from COVID and in an attempt to regain their momentum, the Chilton County Historical Society, under the leadership of President Derric Scott, is out to finish their county newspaper digitization project and to grow the membership and leadership of the society. The society needs some total rock star volunteers, specifically to help write grants for the society. This is a must-have, so please, if you can help, jump in there. They also need people to serve in leadership positions. So please, if you're a professional out there and you think you can help, please jump in. Then there's a need for college-level people and beyond to assist in getting the society set up with the latest technology with regard to computers, video and audio production, and using digital media. The society needs people with an educational background to develop and implement a curriculum focused on keeping younger folks engaged throughout their time in grades K through 12. They need people who like to do oral interviews, YouTube, Facebook, and other social media platforms in order to relay the news of the society, to educate the residents of the county, and to promote the society. They need people good at marketing and working with people, those who can organize and complete fun and entertaining fundraising events. And as soon as the residents of the county provide a facility for the society's permanent home, they're going to need people to donate artifacts and to help creating and implementing exhibits. Every county has people who have lived in the county for generations and who have wonderful historical artifacts of all types that they like to donate, so these can be protected and properly preserved for generations to come. Those families and individuals who have emigrated away from the county may still have artifacts they'd like to donate under the protection of the County Historical Society. However, right now the Chilton County Historical Society can't accept many artifacts because your Chilton County Historical Society needs a building to call their home. They need someone to donate the building, and after that, depending upon the condition of the building, they're going to need volunteers in the construction business to donate electrical, carpentry, painters, roofers, and other trades in order to get the building fit for purpose and most essentially climate-controlled and weatherproof. The society can then start collecting artifacts from the local community to put on display and to hold and protect for the future. If the building is large enough, there can be an exhibits area and places for school-aged children to do projects and attend educational events. There can be a media room where historians and other professionals and members of the society can come to present topics of interest to the community. Derric and the society are going to need people who can help write grants. This is important for the future of the society. Those currently providing educational services, health care, social assistance, financial assistance, insurance, real estate, public administration, and other professions are needed to volunteer in order to help grow the society into the future for the citizens of the county and their children. The historical research, and the articles written by Derric Scott and others could each make up a separate exhibit within the exhibit space. They tell the story of Chilton County, one topic at a time. You're certainly lucky to have Derric as your society's president, as well as the many local authors who write the history books, and also the Genealogical Society in Thorson, if they're still active, I'm not sure. A quote from Derric: "People have specific questions about this building or this bridge or the name of a street. Those things are not going to be covered in any school history book. I think that's where the society has an important relevance in the community." The society is supported 100% by donations and volunteers. Please help support the Chilton County Historical Society today. Derric reviewed the funding and fundraising particulars of the society, their current priorities, and challenges, so you know where the funds are going, and that they'll go for your future and the future of your children in the county. Once again, the contact information for the society, their website is chiltoncountyhistoricalsociety.org. You can find them on Facebook as Chilton County Historical Society. You can send them mail to P.O. Box 644, Clanton, Alabama 35046-0644. You can email them at president@chiltoncountyhistoricalsociety.org. Now, there were 1,000 questions I could have asked Derric during our time together, but I didn't in the interest of time. If questions occur to you and you'd like more information, please connect with the Society via the contact information provided. If you're a listener in the area the Society serves and you're not already donating and/or a member, please consider joining and supporting today. I hope this information helps the audience understand how valuable the Society is to Chilton County and what kinds of excellent services they have to offer to their members and the public. The Chilton County Historical Society is truly one of our preservation oaks. Okay, that's a wrap for this episode. Music used today is from Matt Steiner, the Great Northern Sound Society, John Bateman, Scott Holmes, and Cymbalbird. MicroStream Radio is a registered trademark. You can visit us at www.microstreamradio.com. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted by MicroStream Radio. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere without the written permission of MicroStream Radio. Thanks to everyone for listening. This is Sean Thomas Radcliff. We'll see you all next time on Preservation Oaks.